Snapshot 24W34A includes an update to Data Pack version 50, with news for item components and some other fixes. My name is SliceSlime and this is a guide to the changes. Let's start with the item component changes. The food component has been turned into a pure data container without any behavior change. That is, having a food component alone no longer makes an item consumable, and no longer includes which effects that food has in a non-nutritional sense. The nutrition, saturation, and can always eat fields are still there, but everything else has been moved away. The new home for this functionality is in a number of new components, with the consumable component being the main one. When this component is present, the item can be consumed, which means the item can be used on its own over some time with some animation and is then used up. A number of other components also interact with the consumable component, so if the food component is present, it controls when the item can be consumed through the can always eat flag, and the nutrition data are added when the item is consumed. If the potion contents, ominous bottle amplifier, or suspicious stew contents components are present, the effects of those components are also added when the item is consumed. The consume component has a consume seconds field controlling the amount of time it takes to consume the item. This has to be non-negative, but it can be 0, which is different from the previous food functionality. The animation field controls what animation is played when the player consumes the item. It can be none, eat, drink, lock, bow, crossbow, spear, spyglass, toot horn, or brush. The sound field controls what sound is played while consuming the item, with a default value of entity.generic.eat. Has consume particles is a boolean field controlling whether particles are produced from consuming the item, which defaults to true. And finally, the onConsume effects field controls other effects that can happen when the consumable is consumed. This is a list of consume effects, of which there are currently 5 valid types. The apply effects consume effect applies status effects to the consumer. It has an effects list, which is a list of effect instances to apply, and the probability field determining the probability of the effects being applied, with a default value of 1. The remove effects consume effect removes some set of effects. This is a single field effects, which is an effect type ID, list of effect type IDs, or hash prefixed effect type tag. Clear all effects clears all status effects from the consumer. The teleport randomly effect teleports the consumer randomly within a certain diameter specified in the diameter field, which defaults to 16. And finally, the play sound effect plays a sound when the item has been consumed. That isn't the only new component, however. The use remainder component defines what item is left over when an item is used, like a honey bottle leaving an empty bottle. The format of this component is an item stack, which will replace the item when used. If the used item is in a stack of more than one, the item is added to the inventory instead, and if the inventory is also full, the item is instead dropped to the ground. Note that this component does not apply when the item is used in creative mode. And our last new component is the use cooldown component. This component being present means the item cannot be used again within some cooldown period after use, specified in the seconds field. There's also an optional field called cooldown group, which can be used to mark a set of items to be on cooldown. All items with the same cooldown group will be on cooldown. The cooldown group is a namespaced ID, and the default value of this field is the namespaced ID of the item being used. Note that the cooldown group field is currently bugged and using camel case rather than snake case. And one fix to end off the component news, the enchantable component now also works with items that only have enchantments through a data pack. In command news, using fake players now works once again in score selector results. And in data news, villagers can now have their can pick up loot tag set to 0 to disable them picking up items from the ground. And that's it for Data Pack version 50. Thank you for watching, my name is SliceSlime, and I'll see you next time.